What is up, everyone? We are back with another video. We are here, TeamJVS. I am here with my boy Keaton.
What's up?
I'm really excited for this, man. I mean, we've been reviewing Cobra Kai for a little bit,
Yeah,
and to finally be at the ending is pretty intense, pretty
yeah,
insane stuff. Yeah,
yeah. Especially with how they left it at like part two, like how part two ended. It was like, man,
yeah,
this is
man.
this is getting too real.
It's the levels of things. I mean, like again, I always make the joke like it all started with a high school karate tournament, but part 2
Yes,
ended with a child dying, it
right,
ended with somebody dying,
right.
so
It got so real so quick.
exactly. So picking up, is it obviously you're gonna have a kind of a darker tone, kind of a more, like, kinda dramatic type
Yeah,
vibe to things, and,
absolutely.
yeah, so, I mean, obviously, this is going to be our non-spoiler, so we wanna dive into it, but we wanna make sure you guys know that you can watch this without being afraid for any crazy spoilers. But, yeah, I mean, it's another 5-episode drop, which I don't know how you guys feel about that. I don't know how you feel about that. It's been interesting to spread it out, I will say that, but 5
Yeah,
episodes is just easy to burn through.
it's in not in a couple hours, like a
Yeah.
couple hours, because none of the episodes are like an hour long, and so it's
Yep.
one of those things. It's like you start it and you're done, and it's like, oh, okay, cool, see you in 3 months again. Like
Yeah.
it's really frustrating, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a fan of that. I'm like, look, just give me the season. Like,
Mhm.
it's the age of streaming. Don't make cable out of streaming.
And the thing is, like, I get where you're coming from there because that's kind of where I'm at too, but then there's times where it's like, then you watch it all and you're like, "Crap, I want more," and knowing that you don't have to wait you can wait, like, 3 months instead of a 12-month period
I give you
sometimes helps
that.
you sleep a little better,
That's
and
true.
in this case, especially how it ended, we wanted to know where it picked up, and I feel as though they handled it pretty in a solid manner. I will say that it's off to a kind of a slow start at times, but then we pick off, and then halfway through this part, I think we get one of the best episodes I believe Cobra Kai has dropped. In
Yeah,
my opinion, it's top 10, it has to be, like, in most people's book, but in my book, it's, like, top 3.
yeah,
And we get so much action towards the back half of the season, which
yeah,
is great.
absolutely.
But as for like the drama and as for speeding up certain storylines, because there's only 5 episodes left, how do you think that they handled, you know, the pacing, if you will?
I think they stuck the landing.
Mhm.
I really do feel like they were able to give everyone their moment. They did a really good, and you're right, like it was gonna be difficult with the pacing, but gosh, I feel like they nailed it. Like in an age where I feel like no shows have stick the landing on endings, I feel like Cobra Kai nailed it. It was it was very satisfying. I'm sad that it's over. I am very, very sad that it's over because it was really, really good.
Mhm. And yeah, I mean, there were some things that you could say were kind of predictable, but at the end of the day, a majority of the show has had a lot of moments that were very, very predictable, but
Yeah,
that doesn't take away from the excitement or from the, craziness that is Cobra Kai.
right.
'Cause, I will say that there were certain, like, characters that you could see them going a certain route,
Yes,
and you
for
were just
sure.
like, "Okay, this is something that we've seen coming. I don't know if I necessarily wanted it to go this way, but they stuck the landing and it
Right.
ends up, like, I'm rewatching the show and I'm just like, "Wow, this is really cool," knowing where certain things kind of end up. So I feel like that they really handled, closure for a lot of characters,
Yeah,
in a way that people are going to be satisfied, and, again, will make the rewatch a little different for a lot of people, if you will.
definitely. It
Again, it's so hard not to spoil things.
I feel like the way that they ended it makes the show very rewatchable,
Yes. Mhm.
especially looking at these characters from season 1, and I'm not gonna lie, they look so little compared to now, like the way they aged them up and everything. Like, man, it has just been it's been such a fun, wild ride. And yeah, I really think people are gonna love these last five episodes. Like I said, they do a really good job wrapping it, but at the same time, it's one of those things where I'm like, they don't have to end it. Like I feel like if they wanted to,
They could, yeah, they could.
they could let it cook. Like they could do it. Like, but I
Yep,
understand all good things
most
must come
definitely.
to an end. And if it's got to end, I feel like this is a great way
Mhm.
to do it, a great way to send it off. So yeah, I mean, yeah, kudos. And yeah, I absolutely loved it.
And just a heads up, we are going to be doing a spoiler review as well, because now that we're talking about it, I can't like it's really hard to kind of contain what we're kind of thinking.
Yes.
But so we'll eventually get to that. But I do want to say, of course, yeah, it's been really interesting, and the way that they did end it, kind of like it's not one of those open-ended type deals, but again, it just makes you wonder, like, hey, we could get a lot more. We could
Yeah.
get more with this, and
Yeah.
it's
It's so
and again,
good.
I think it's a testament to the writing, because again, the writing doesn't need to be top tier. Like again, and a lot of the stuff we're like, okay, we know this is happening. I have a feeling
Yeah.
this is gonna happen. But again, they just do it in a way that it's just like it's fun. It's
Yeah.
great,
It's yeah.
like it's
Just
silly.
karate
Like
gangs all
yeah,
day, every day.
it's
Let's
silly.
do it.
This is like a watered down gang show. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's like Warrior watered down.
No, yeah, and it's so fun, because it's like, again, it all comes down to where we started, and then where it ends. It's like we have moments that are like, why this didn't need to happen. This is so unnecessary. We got the
Yeah.
League of Shadows popping up at one
Right.
point.
Like,
It
yeah,
was just
it's wild work, man. It's wild work. And
yeah,
I'm kind of like Daniel's wife, where she's just like, man,
yeah,
freaking
it's fucking
karate.
karate.
Like, oh my God. Like this is so ridiculous. It gets so out of hand, and I absolutely love it. And and they push the envelope even more. Like I thought they pushed the envelope at the end of the second part. But the stuff they do in the third part, I'm like, wait, did that just happen?
Mhm. And again, a lot of people are gonna question some of the decisions. Like there is a part like that determines the end of the show, for an example, and you're just like, they're really doing this. Like this
Yeah.
seems like they're like, oh wait, this happened, so that means this needs to happen to determine what happens next, if that makes
Well,
any sense at all. But it's like you're looking at it like there's no way that we as viewers are
right.
gonna tolerate this. But then we sit there and we're like, oh my god, this is cool. Like
Well, it's one of those things too where it's like, okay, how far fetched can this get? And it's like, well, it's about high school karate gangs. We'll do whatever we want. It'll get as far fetched as we want. If we want to kidnap people, we will.
yes.
If we
Oh my
want to,
god.
like, ever since like the one of the earlier seasons when it's like Kreese having like a battle over a pit of snakes with someone in Vietnam, I'm like, what on earth?
Dude, yeah, I
Like,
know. And it's
this
like
was his backstory. He did this before the first Karate Kid. Like, what on what? Like, this is so unhinged. Like, what
it
on?
and I think that's the one thing that they've really handled well too. Because I mean, the one thing I do wanna give this show props for is, although the writing, again, I'm like, "Okay, this is probably going to happen." The one thing that I will give them is the audience that they've captured that, didn't necessarily grow up with the movies.
Mhm.
So, me, for an example, I'm not as old as the movies, but my mom grew up with the movies, so therefore she showed me the movies.
Yeah.
But a lot of kids nowadays, like that are still in school, are watching the show due to it being on Netflix, and
Oh yeah.
and they did such a good job explaining what happened in the previous films without, like being like, "Oh, well, this is a little taste, but if you wanna know the entirety of it,
Yeah.
you can
And
go to the movies." And
Netflix did a really good job making all the backstory available. They did
yes,
a really good job with that too. And so
exactly. You
it's
don't
one
have
of
to
those
go to
things.
7 other streaming services in order
No,
to
you
find it.
don't. Karate, all the Karate Kid movies, I believe, right now are still
Mhm.
currently streaming on Netflix if you want to watch it. And so, yeah, it's really. I have loved the lore and the backstories on this. Like these are stories that are wrapping up that started before any of these kids were born,
Yep.
right? And
Yeah.
so it's very very interesting seeing it all come to fruition and seeing it all go down the way it does. And it it ends up, yeah, I absolutely love Cobra Kai.
Yeah, and I think, again, as someone that's been watching this since the beginning when it was on YouTube Red, and even the transfer to Netflix was great. I mean, again, the amount of love that the show ended up getting, like this was one of those shows where it's like, even though it was solid, sometimes studios, they don't hesitate when it comes to canning good shows.
Right.
So when YouTube Red did kind of shut down, my immediate thought was, man, like, we might be done with Cobra Kai, even though there's so much more to tell, you know? And
Yeah,
them transferring
I
it to
know.
Netflix, and of course, everyone showing it so much love was just it was great. It was great. And I'm so glad that they were
Yeah.
able to kind of end on their own accord, like end and tell the story that they wanted to tell. And me personally, I'm really happy with the ending. And I do want to say that like a lot of people are curious on how it ends up. Obviously, we're not telling you it here, but I will
Well,
say that it's a majority. It's a happy tone. You know, there's a happiness for a lot of different characters, if you will. And
there's
I'll say that
definitely,
I'm
yeah,
yeah.
definitely a thumbs up, which is good because the thing is, like, you think about a lot of these like sports movies and things from the 80s, most of
Yeah.
them, it's like, yeah, like we're gonna let them triumph. Now, when it hit the 90s and the 2000s, they're like, nah, they're gonna lose. They don't get to win. This isn't real life. The rich kids win. Like, it is what it is. But like, I do
Shoot.
love the balance that this show does with like, hey, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and
Yep.
at the end of the day, we're all winners. Like, they do a really
Kind
good
of
job
kind of
doing
like a
that.
Rocky vibe. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, they do a really good job showing not only like the tournament, but also the big picture. Because at the
Mhm.
end of the day, these are kids that have grown into adults. And it's like, after this tournament, you're going to start paying rent. You got bills to pay. You're going to pay taxes. Like, it's real. So you better get all this punching and kicking out right now. Because after this, you better hit up Sally Mae for some student loans. Like, it's all going down. And so I do love the way that they wrapped it up. Like, look, this is the last karate hoorah. The
Mhm. Sekai Taikai.
Sekai Taikai. Like, look, just it's the last hoorah. Because after this, I hope your SAT scores are good, right? Like,
Yeah.
they just, it's really funny the way that they do it. And I do love like even some of the cameos that pop up in this third part. It was pretty cool. And
Mhm.
I let me just say, I am so glad that they brought Louis Fan on this show. He is so awesome in everything I see him in. And so I loved them bringing him in on the show. And like that third dojo, the dragons, they were
Yeah.
so entertaining.
Yeah,
And the
he's
fight,
been great
yeah,
in everything I've seen him in, yeah.
and the fight choreography is just, they just kept taking it up, which
Mhm.
makes sense because it's like, okay, this is where they started and this is how far things are going to go. And it's like, okay, cool, this is it, this is how we do things. And so yeah, it's been a wild fun ride for sure.
Yeah, and again, it's like part of me is like, I want more, I'm even
Oh
though I'm
yeah.
satisfied with the ending, it's just like I could go for more, but they did what they needed to do, and I do appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to give out any more spoilers or give out
Nope,
any
no
spoilers, excuse
spoilers.
me. So I think I don't know if you have anything else you want to say before we wrap up this non-spoiler.
Two thumbs up.
Two thumbs up, yeah,
Two thumbs
man.
up. I can't wait to rewatch it when it comes out again.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
so rewatching it is something I'm excited for, and although we still haven't learned too much about what's to come with the movie, I am excited to see that. I will say that.
In the
But
trailer out for it,
the trailer is out for that, and they have no connection in the trailer, for an example, to kind of hype up what's to come. They didn't
which is
in the
that's why I
trailer.
haven't watched it. I haven't even looked
Exactly.
it up yet because I'm frustrated. I'm like, no, no, you don't take Cobra Kai away from me and give me some new unknown universe. I don't want that. No
Yeah,
one
so I'm
else.
hoping there's
What are
some
you doing?
type of connection that we'll get. So we'll
Right.
see. But who knows? We'll have to be patient. But again, a big thank you to everyone that's been checking out these reviews and
Yep.
who came to Team JVS. So make sure you guys are liking, subscribing. There's a lot more content coming out anytime, any Karate Kid stuff, or maybe Cobra Kai in the future if they do something crazy. Who knows?
Yep.
We will be trying to cover it over here. So stay tuned. And if you guys want some reactions, you can pull up to my channel, Busy Braun. And yeah, guys, thank you for stopping by. Peace
Yep.
out. What is up, Team JVS? We're back with
What's
another
up?
video. We are here with our Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 3 series spoiler review. So we just did a non-spoiler review, which you guys are more than welcome to check out. But we just could not contain ourselves. We need to dive into it. And of course, I am here with my boy Keaton,
What's going
who's
on?
a huge Cobra Kai fan. So
We got boats blowing up. We got boats blowing up. What on earth?
yeah, and it's again, I know I said this in the last video, but I always feel like it's necessary to just remember the roots, you know? Karate Kid it's a high school tournament, high school karate tournament, and now we got two dudes fighting to the death on a boat.
We
So
got domestic terrorism. Like
yes,
what?
man. Yeah, I mean, I know we should have a structured review, but it's kind of hard when
It's
we're
hard.
just bringing everything to the top of our heads. But I do want to say, of course, season 6 has been interesting,
Mhm.
and there have been moments that have been, you know, all right, and then there've been moments that are just like game changers, you know. And
Mhm.
part 2 ended with a really big moment, which was Quan dying.
Yeah.
And again, it just all brings us back. Like a child didn't need to die, a kid didn't need to die here, you know. But it's
Right.
realistically that's where we are, and it's a big kind of obstacle for a lot of our characters because we have dealt with threats, we have dealt with cripplings, we have dealt with a lot. But someone actually dying is, you know, it's a little different,
Yikes.
you
Big
know, and
yikes. Yeah.
exactly. So to be in a situation where we have not only the kids exposed to that, but we have the sensei such as like Daniel, who is kind of coping with the fact that he again, and not my words, but he flipped over the pancake, you know, like he flipped over
Yeah.
Quan himself to see that he was gone was interesting. And then I feel like that they've dealt with that tragedy in an interesting way because yes, there was a lot of humor involved with it, but there was a lot of emotion behind this
Mhm.
season. And even if it wasn't necessarily relating to Quan, this was I feel like both William Zabka and Ralph Macchio were in their bag.
Oh yeah.
This acting wise, some of the best stuff
Yes.
that I've seen between them, and
Absolutely.
I do want to dive into that soon. But
Yeah.
how do you feel with the way they picked up from part 2 with the death of everything?
I thought they picked it up perfectly, like, just starting it off, like, straight up with Quan's funeral, like, I'm like, "Okay, perfect." Like, let
Yep.
us know this isn't one of those things where he's in a coma and might not survive. Nope. Like,
Nope, he's done.
he's done. Donezo. Absolutely done.
What's crazy
And
is I didn't even think about that, like, I just assumed he was done, but if they just pulled up with him in, like, a hospital bed saying, "Oh, he'll live, but he's hasn't woken up yet,"
it
that would
was
be
close,
yeah,
right?
it
Like,
was
that's what
close.
I was like, "Surely
Nah,
they're
but
not
they
gonna
they
kill a
pulled up with a
child."
wooden box. They
Yeah.
started off
It's like, "It's a wrap, dog." Like,
strong,
"Nah.
man. And it was really interesting to kinda see that because on top of
Nah."
that, we
Yeah.
see pure, like, actual emotion
Yeah.
from Kreese, and this is kind of where we go with Kreese because Kreese has done a lot of crappy things, and, again, I mentioned this in the non-spoiler, but rewatching it, especially knowing where it ends up, you kind of, like, are watching and you're like, "Oh, it's my boy Kreese," even though when you first watch it, you're like, "Oh, that dickhead Kreese," So
Yeah.
it's,
Like, "Oh my
like
god, what a terrible
e
person." Yeah.
exactly, but it's like we see him in a situation where he's like, "Oh, it's my fault," and you can't help but to just sit there and be like, "Yes, it is," and it's to see him actually kind of taking responsibility, and I feel like Kreese a while ago would have been like, "Oh, he wasn't strong enough. He wasn't one of my
Yeah.
students." Like that knife wouldn't have killed him if he was a real Cobra Kai. Like
Well
I expected some dark stuff like that, but to see
well,
kind of how he handled it was interesting.
I do love Crease's story, how they progress it, and in the end, he fully takes hold of loving Johnny does not make me weak. It's what makes me strong, and it's what
Mhm.
makes me better, and it's the only good part of my life. Like, and
Yep.
so the way he wrapped things up with not only Johnny but also Tori, I
Yeah,
I loved it. I loved the
and
way that he was like, and I said this. I can't remember which season it was when we reviewed this. I said the show is called Cobra
Cobra
Kai.
Kai, yep, and it
It's
always
called
comes
Cobra
down to that.
Kai.
And I
It
had the biggest question on how we were gonna end,
yeah,
and you were right because I remember you like, I was thinking that, I was like, "How are we going to do this?" Because it's Cobra Kai, it needs to end kind of with
yeah.
Cobra Kai in a sense.
Not Miyagi Do, not
Not
Eagle
Eagle
Fang,
Fang.
not the dragons,
Mhm.
Cobra Kai. That's the name of the show. And so the fact that swung it back,
Oh, man.
they swung it back, and my boy Miguel, right? Like they,
I
it's like,
will say one of the coolest moments, Well, I believe episode 3 is one of the best episodes we've gotten in a while.
Hmm.
And I'm not necessarily just talking about the reveal, like with them coming out to the fire ass music, but just having Miguel come out, and then Silver, and of course Wolf looking actually worried. And
Hmm.
then, of course, they're like, "Oh, he can't do this bullshit." And then Silver's like, "They're former Cobra Kai," and I'm just like, "Yeah, they are, bro. Fuck yeah, they
Like, yeah,
are."
they are. They
And
are. They're in there.
and then we got that moment, and you're talking about Kree specifically, and that's why I can't help but to bring that up. That moment where him and Tori look at each other, and then him and Johnny look at each other, and they all bow to each other.
Hmm.
I think is it's one of my favorite moments of the
Chills.
entire series. Like
Chills. Yeah.
I've yelled at a lot at the screen a lot. It's what I do. But I could not help but I was flabbergasted. It
Yeah.
was one of my favorite moments in Cobra Kai to
Yeah.
see the way they handled that, to see Kreese actually have a redemption arc. When I'm sitting here like, okay, they can try to give him a redemption arc, but it's not really gonna work
Yeah.
realistically. Like it's not actually gonna happen. But
Exactly. Yeah.
they pulled it off in a
Oh,
way where I'm like, shit, let's go, Kreese. I'm
let's
cheering on
go.
the dude that like abuses children. Like I'm rooting for this guy,
Like, yeah, like all of the adults grow so much. Like hearing Johnny
Mhm.
say, "Didn't you know Cobra Kai never dies?" I was like, "What?"
Oh, that was when Miguel, not Miguel, Daniel said that.
Yeah, Daniel, that's
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
meant.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
when yeah, Daniel said that
Oh,
to
that was so cool,
yeah.
bro.
And
Yeah,
I my jaw was on the floor. I was like, "Oh," when he said that to Silver, I was like, yo, I
yeah,
was
and
so hyped. I'm like, finally, the glow up. They're finally good. He can go back to selling cars now. He's
and
grown as a
I
person.
will say, like, one thing that I've admired a lot about this last part is they had so many one-liners that were like throwbacks, even when Torian and Robbie are talking, and Robbie says like "no fucking mercy," it's just like the little things where we wouldn't necessarily believe a character would, kind of like say these lines, and then they're
Right.
encouraging it, and then at the end with Johnny like teaching a whole new class, and he's explaining what strike first, strike hard, no mercy actually should mean, was
Yes.
such a full circle moment in such a beautiful way
It
to
was.
kind of have Cobra Kai end, because we have just Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai kind of working together as
Yeah.
one unit. And it's just so beautiful, especially where we started. Again, where these kids fighting over a girl, like this is
Yeah.
how the show started. And to see where they are now, where they just have a mutual understanding of what
It's
their
really great.
strengths are and
Yeah.
what their weaknesses are. And they're
Yeah.
not no longer kind of bashing each other for that. They're kind of
Yeah.
going at it where it's like, well, you're better at defense and I admire you for that. And just hearing the way that they were kind of passing on their students. Is it okay if Devin fights for Miyagi-Do? She needs to work on her defense. It's like, oh well, yeah, if my son can fight for Cobra Kai, so he has a neutral sensei. And I'm just like, bro, like I love this. It fits so
Yeah.
perfectly. And although I would love to be like, I need a part 4, I need another season. It's just I feel as though we would just be going back to the roots where it's like, oh well, we need to create conflict. Let's have Daniel and Johnny try to kill each other one last time. It's like, no, like
See,
this is perfect.
I'm not gonna lie. I'd love in 10 years or so.
Oh yeah.
In 10 years or so, all of a sudden Johnny's like, it's time to retire, give the dojo
To
over
Robbie.
to either to Robbie or bring Miguel back, like bring the gang back, right? Kind of like what they did in that one episode of the Mighty Ducks TV show that they did,
Okay.
like when they brought back all the old ones. Like, do it, just do it. It's fine. Just do it. Because the thing, I'm not gonna I would love to see either a backstory or what happens to the dragons
Oh
after
yeah.
this, right? Because Axel, like, he's still out there and he's still got hands, right? Like, he's
Mhm.
still like, it's one of those things. And so it's very very interesting, this world that they opened up, especially showing us all these dojos from other countries and like
Mhm.
and so yeah, it was a lot of fun, and like it's a big enough world. They could do comic books, they could write novels, like there's so much that they could do, but the way that they wrapped it, where it's like, nah, still Cobra Kai, baby. We're in
Yep.
this. We're in this. We're not going anywhere. Tori and Miguel did the damn thing. Johnny, did the damn thing,
Mhm.
all with that red and yellow cobra on their back. Like, and it's like, this is how it should be. This is the way.
Yeah, man. It was just it was so cool, especially at the ending when we see everyone in Cobra Kai gis. Like Sam in a Cobra Kai gi threw me off. Even Daniel in the Cobra Kai gi threw me off.
Yes,
Even though we've seen him in a Cobra Kai gi before. You know what I'm saying?
that's
So it was just
right.
like it
That's
was like
right.
exactly, and it was just one of those things where it's like it just feels not right, but in the circumstances, it feels amazing.
Yeah.
And it just they folded all the pieces perfectly to make it work, to make it kind of not feel forced.
I,
Cause
yeah.
they yeah, what's up?
I was also gonna say I also love what they did with the characters off the mat, like setting up their futures,
Mhm.
like Robbie and Tori getting the sponsorships,
Yep.
Miguel getting into Stanford, Sam going to
Okinawa.
Okinawa, and Miguel surprising and going with her. Like the way they wrapped it up, like I said in a non-spoiler, it's like you're adults now. Like you're after karate was great. No more roundhouse kicks because that's just assault and you're gonna go to prison. Like, like, you're adults now. It's over. It's a wrap. And so like wrapping it up and showing them as like fully functioning adults, successful. I loved it. And just seeing Johnny like talking to the new kids coming in and talking about where Miguel started versus how he won the tournament. Like, this is
Mhm,
where he used to be, just like you, and you can be just like him. Like, he has gone from being like a jerk to actually being this very inspiring, although sometimes still unhinged and abrasive sensei. And
mhm.
I absolutely love that. Like by the end, it's like, okay, he has his dojo back. He doesn't have to sell cars. He's doing exactly what he wanted to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think again, like the fact that Daniel's the one who kind of bought back the lot for him,
Yeah.
bought back the spot is just it was really cool to see that.
Full
And again,
circle.
I thought it was gonna be like a one-off type deal, like, hey, like you bought this is yours now. And I thought honestly, I would have expected them to do it at the end, like a
Yeah.
last minute thing. But the fact that we got to see them training in that location,
Yeah.
and on top of that, we get to see Johnny training the new kind of generation of Cobra Kai's,
Yeah.
was pretty cool. And of
It was
course,
pretty awesome.
Stingray's back, which interesting for sure.
He
I
shouldn't
j
be.
no, no, no. But to see the way he was, how they used him was, a cool little
It was
comic
fun.
relief,
It was fun.
Uh,
Absolutely.
him, like, saying, "Oh, it's time for you guys to toughen up," and then he's like, "Mom, hello? Yeah, I'll do the laundry when I get home, like,
It
leave me
was great.
alone,"
It was great. It was really good.
But, no, yeah, there's a lot of things that I feel like they did right, and
Yeah.
again, I am happy with the way a lot of these characters had closure. And I know you mentioned one thing you mentioned was Cobra Kai must end, in Cobra Kai, and
Hmm.
one thing that I felt like, and I know this isn't as big picture, but with the whole Kreese situation, I was like, if we're gonna end this, and if he's gonna have a redemption moment, it needs to end with him kind of, you know, dead.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Yeah.
if they're gonna redeem him, it needs
Give
to
it.
be him like
Yeah.
sacrificing or something. Like, I just couldn't see them, having him sacrifice himself or not have him redeem himself, without a big type of you know gesture. And
Yeah.
after he kind of gave Cobra Kai back, and after everything there, I was like, "Oh shit, they don't need to kill him. They don't need to do this." Like I thought the only way that they would be able to redeem him is having him sacrifice himself. But they've handled this so well that
Yeah.
this man can live. And
Yeah.
then of course they ended up having him on the boat with Terry, doing one more gesture.
One more.
We hear Terry say, "I need you to kidnap Johnny's family." And I'm like, "What the fuck are we doing? What
What
are we
on
doing?"
earth?
And then even the other guy that he was commanding to do, he's like, "Hey, boss, lighting a furniture store up is one thing, but kidnapping a baby is kind of a different story, you know?"
Like, whoa,
And
whoa, whoa,
then,
whoa, whoa. We're not
yeah,
taking it there. I'll
yeah, and
send
Terry's
John
like,
Wick after us. Like,
exactly, yeah, and then Terry's like, "Oh, well, like if you do this, I'll give you the yacht." He was like, "All right, man." And then, of
bet.
course,
I mean,
we see
okay.
Kreese pull up, and I will say the one, everything that we got, I loved. But
Yeah.
part of me was really hoping for an Emily Swank, Hillary Swank,
I was
cameo.
waiting for it.
And they could have set it up so perfectly. I'm sorry. Like I expected like if Terry was in international waters for her to be like a military captain. They could have done something crazy like that.
I
And then
was waiting
and
for it.
then part of me expected when the Sekai Taikai was airing and we saw the guy that owned the pawn store, the pawn shop, and then we see the guy that owned the corner store. They
Yeah,
were both sitting there. I thought it was gonna go to different people watching the Sekai Taikai. I thought it was gonna jump to them. Then I
yeah,
thought it was gonna jump to Aisha, and then I
yeah,
thought it was gonna jump to friggin' Hillary Swank,
yeah.
being like, "Oh wow, this is cool," you know?
Yeah, like
And then
I didn't know what they were gonna do, and it was one of
yeah,
those things where I'm like, "Oh, man," and then, one of the things that I love that really stood out to me because the thing that's great about Cobra Kai is not only is it like a sequel to these Karate Kid movies, but I feel like they do such a good job paying homage to, like, the old school '80s like, movies from, like, the '70s and '80s.
yeah,
The training scene where they play "You're the Best Around,"
yeah. How
but
about
it's like
when you
them
got
running
Daniel and
kinda like
Johnny?
it's
Yeah, yeah.
Rocky. Like, I was just like, "This is amazing."
The fact that they actually had a crowd of people chasing them too, like,
Yeah,
this was, like, straight from a movie, like, it was so fun to
it was
watch,
excellent.
and they just man, they really delivered
They
with,
nailed it.
this final part, and again, I know a lot of people are gonna say, some things that they might be disappointed in, but I think they did a fantastic job. I think they stuck
I
the
do too.
landing, although, could have been cool to see Hilary Swank. That wouldn't have made the show for me either way. What they did
Yeah,
made the show. What they did, I think solidified why it's one of the best shows on Netflix.
I
I'm
agree.
really happy
I
with
agree.
how they ended it, and the ending didn't feel forced.
It
Them
didn't.
going to Cobra Kai didn't feel forced. Everything just came out again naturally, and I guess some of the things are predictable, but
Yeah.
it didn't change the way I felt about it. Like
And at the same yeah, go
episode
ahead.
3 again delivered one of the best episodes. To see again another version of Miyagi, another, what they did de-aging with CG, whatever you wanna call it, that was
Yes.
so interesting. Like,
Wild.
yeah,
That
and,
was wild. And, like,
of
the
course for the
closure, like
skeletons.
yeah, and
Yeah,
the
for the closure.
closure, like,
Yep,
where it's like, okay, he's literally fighting the skeletons in his closet right now. Like,
yep.
that's literally what's happening here,
Oh, that's
and
beautiful.
like just the wrap up with the pearls and like okay this is the full story and this
Yep,
is what
what really
happened
happened, and for his
and
mom to pop up again one more time was fantastic too.
yeah it was just yeah they absolutely nailed it and I do love that it was still far-fetched because that's what it's supposed to be. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be far-fetched. It's like and then we might just blow up a yacht and I'm like okay okay you know what this comes from the '80s. Hand grenades were everywhere. I'll
Mhm.
allow it. Like
Yeah, it was great, man. They did a really good job.
yeah.
And again, I mentioned the skeleton scene. I mentioned the Cobra Kai. At the end, Miguel switching teams, but I really loved that final moment with Johnny and Kreese, and just to see the way that Johnny felt. He's like, I couldn't trust nobody, even myself. And again, delivering such a powerful performance there. But I will say the one thing that I do wish we could have seen is Johnny's reaction to Kreese dying. And I guess
Yeah,
no
I
one really knew
really
about that because we got one reference to it where they're like, "Where the hell is Terry?" But like
yeah,
other than that, like nobody knows what happened.
nobody knows what happened, and I wonder if anyone ever will. Like, that's the thing, it's like, what went down here?
Mhm.
No one knows because, I mean, Silver's wife left him, so no one's out here just looking for Silver
Exactly.
anymore, and so, yeah, yeah, the way
And
that
and Silver was doing everything wrong, so I'm sure off books and all that. So I'm sure like no one would even really know
he might
who's
have
that yacht
stole the boat.
maybe even belong to. Yeah, exactly.
Like, right,
Like
so yeah, and so, like, yeah, and it's one of those things where, like, I do love how Kreese still made up with Johnny at the end. They hugged it out, they cried together. Like it was great how they did that. And he also wrapped things up really well with Tori. And he's like, I gotta go, kid. This will be the last time we see each other. It is
yeah.
what it is. Like it's like he had
Does it have
already,
to be? Yeah,
he's like,
just to hear
afraid
her say
so.
that, yeah.
Afraid so.
Oh, man.
And the thing is, I was wondering right then if it was going to be one of those things where it's like, oh, he's just going to walk out into the sunset. Like that's what I thought they were going to do until the yacht scene.
I know, yeah. I was kinda rooting for her, I'm not gonna lie, but they did a good job. I, love that a majority of the characters got a happy ending. I mean, even Chosen kinda pulled up to that.
Yeah.
to the League of Shadows and was like, "Hey,
Yeah.
like, I'm here, we can hang out," and, it
Yeah.
was even her face, she was like, "Oh," she was happy,
She
and
was after
I wanna
she
believe that they're training the next generation of,
she
vigilantes.
she definitely killed her grandfather.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. Yeah,
are we
yeah,
gonna talk about that?
she killed him,
Like,
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
oh, she gets her happy ending, and I'm like, she killed her
Yeah,
grandfather.
but that
Like,
guy was, like, 200 years old, I
he
mean,
was.
he should
He
have died
was.
100 years ago, bro,
Yeah,
like,
like, when the police heard about it, they were like, "He's still alive? Like, what?" Like,
like, all of our records show he
huh.
died 80 years ago,
Right.
it's it's
Ra's al Ghul, like,
exactly,
yeah,
he's drinking from that fountain, bro, it's just, the pit, but,
yeah,
it's been re it's it was a trip, man, and,
yeah,
I'm hoping we can talk about it more. I do plan on going live on my channel later on, so this should be
definitely.
good, but, for now, I mean, I don't know if there's anything else you wanna bring up?
I loved it. I'm gonna miss it. I'm gonna
Mhm.
rewatch it. Cobra Kai never dies.
Cobra Kai never dies, man. And again, thank you guys for watching. You guys can subscribe. You guys can, uh, you know, do what you can, help us out. Keaton, you want to plug anything in?
Yep. You can just follow us here at JVS, and then also follow my podcast, Bat Therapy, that I do with Dr. Amelia Brown. We look at mental health through the lens of comics, movies, and TV shows. So it's a lot of fun. Definitely check us out. That's Bat Therapy. The website is bat-therapy.com, but you can also find our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and anywhere else that you listen to podcasts. We're pretty much everywhere.
Sure, yeah. And of course, you can find me doing reviews over here, and then on my channel, dropping reactions, even for Cobra Kai. So yeah. But for now, again, big thank you to all of you guys. We've been covering this for a little bit, so we appreciate the support. And again, yeah, Cobra Kai never dies.